Today's video was selected for you by my gorgeous patrons, so thank you very much to them for making this selection. And if you would like to be involved in future video polls and also have access to the Discord, the one card riff video every month and other privileges as well, check out the tiers. I will leave all the information down below. Hello pumpkins, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. Today I feel very excited. I'm absolutely psyched for this one because I'm going to talk today about my matron deity in a way that I don't think I've ever spoken about her on this channel before. This is my matron deity, Hel, the Norse underworld goddess. This is a collage that I made of her. And I have made a few videos about Hel over the course of time. So I've made 4 videos that are dedicated to talking about my work with her, the style of communication, the devotion, you know, how it all sort of fits together. You can find all 4 of them down below. I'll leave them with a little bit of description for each of them. So it's not that I haven't come to you before and talked to you about my amazing relationship with this incredible goddess that I am devoted to beyond measure, and I think that really comes through in the resources that I've provided. Obviously I have spoken to you guys about her before, but I don't think I've ever sat down and created a video where I just talk about some of the key lessons that I feel that she tries to drum into me over and over again through the years, you know, like the key messages, the stuff that comes up in different situations, different circumstances, that I feel are trademarks of hers, you know? And so I really want to get into that today. It's going to get a little bit personal in places as I talk about how this goddess's incredible wisdom is being interpreted by me and used in order to build my life and improve my life and maintain my mental well-being and help me and enable me to survive and thrive. So this is going to be a very, very, very devotional video that I'm making. And I can't wait to share some of these insights with you about lessons that have guided me, that have come direct from Hel and have landed on my heart and permeated through my psyche and turned me into the woman that I am. So it's really a pleasure to be able to devote myself to her in this way by sharing these things with you. Hel has been a presence in my life since 2011, and the first time I made a video about my relationship with her was 9 years ago. The first video of the 4 that I linked down there is 9 years old, so I have been raving about her on my channel for a good long while now. As anyone will tell you when they've had a close working relationship with a deity through several years, there does seem to be certain key themes that they sort of like come back to you with and that they kind of lay at your feet time after time in different scenarios. And you get to realize and understand that they are working with you principally to impart that information to you. And they have kind of like a style, a way of doing that, but those trademark kind of messages and those key times where a deity comes in and kind of gives of themselves and really sort of makes you aware of their presence and makes you aware of their wisdom, those times basically can be categorized into patterns of behavior or patterns of communion, if you will. So you look at those times and you think, oh wow, there's this time that the deity has come in and said this to me, and then there's this time that they came in with a very similar message, and there's this time that I was going to do this thing, and then they came in and they sort of imparted that same message again. So you start to see that a deity wants to work with you on set things. There may be certain kind of like flaws that they have noticed in you that they tend to rock up very closely towards you to help you to deal with those flaws. And so this is just basically going to be a super devotional video about how that's come across for me with Hel and what that looks like. It's going to be different for everybody. This is not, you know, textbook how this being is going to behave with everyone. This is just how she has come in and fostered that closeness and given that guidance to me. By the way, darlings, before I break down the 10 key lessons that have been given to me by my matron goddess, I also want to say that I've given a lot of advice in general about working with deity. So if you click down below, also there will be a playlist that will take you to all the deity videos that I've made. There are absolutely tons of them. I'm very, very passionate about imparting advice on deity work. So if you have dilemmas around deity or you have questions or whatever, you may find some of the much needed answers in some of those videos. But let's go ahead now and get into the 10 lessons that my goddess has taught me that have meant so much and have been life-changing and in certain cases life-saving for me. first lesson that Hel has taught me over and over again is that there is wisdom in delay. This is very important for me because I'm very impulsive. I'm very in the moment. I want to make decisions on the spot. I want to take actions as quickly as possible. And she has taught me that that is not always the most wise thing to do. You know, it's okay to sit with yourself, feel into your body, consider all the variables and take your time before deciding on a course of action or saying yes to a favour asked of you or saying no to an invitation, anything like that, basically, you know. So one way that she's helped me to do this is magically. I have very often over the years asked Hel whether or not I should take magical action on something. Should I go forward with a spell for this particular thing? And I've noticed that there have been many instances where Hel has come forward and pulled the reins on me and said, wait a second. There is so much information that you do not have about the thing that you want to do spellcraft around. You have not sat with yourself enough to be able to know that that's the way forward magically. There is information that you are missing and you need to wait and just feel it out and allow it to do what it needs to do first before you come in with your big spellcraft boots on. So that's definitely something that's been interesting about this goddess. And it's not just with magical action. It's also with things like spending decisions, you know. It's to do with, like I said, saying yes or no to something, planning my time, making decisions about whether or not I'm going to honour a particular commitment, say yes to what it is that I'm going to take responsibility for or not, you know, how involved I'm going to be. So because I think Hel is very much a goddess that is about keeping her word and doing what she said she was going to do, she doesn't want me to go in straight away and say, yeah, I'll do all of that, no problem. Or, yeah, absolutely, put my name to that, that's fine. She wants me to wait and think, read through the contract first.
What do you think? Should I sign it?
Not even sure where you'd sign it. Is that meant to be a dotted line? A lot of these aren't proper sentences.
It's legalese, all right? Keep your beak out.
Sit with how your body is responding first. Sleep on it. What's wrong with sleeping on something? What's wrong with taking a moment and thinking about the lay of the land for the next few weeks and how much time or energy you're actually genuinely going to have? So there's so much there that has helped me to get right with my relationship with impulsivity. And I didn't really expect this from this goddess. I don't know why, but like, it wasn't something that I imagined I was going to be learning, but it's come up so many times that I have to mention it as the first lesson. There is power in delay. There is something very potent in the art of gestation and waiting for something to really come to you in its fullest form before you make decisions about it. I think she's very good at asking me to be mature about the decisions I'm making and the action I'm taking. She's very good at stepping in and kind of advising that I hold fire. And she's good at reminding me that I do not need to bow to pressure, outside pressure. If somebody wants me to make a snap decision or, you know, commit to something really quickly or take action in the moment, and I feel like I might need some solo time to assess what is really going on and how I feel about it and whether or not that's okay, I should take that time, you know? I don't need to be aggressive or bolshy about it, but it's my right to actually say, I'm taking that time. I'll come back to you on that. Let me think about it. Let me check my schedule. Whatever it is that I'm being encouraged to be less impulsive about, Hel will kind of be there at my shoulder guiding me on that. So big lesson, you know, delay is power. There is wisdom in delay. Delay gives you what you need to be able to figure out the best way forward. The second lesson is a very big one, guys. It's huge for me with my work with Hel. The finish line is a sacred place. That is the second lesson. Productivity, focus, and completion of a task are devotional. And Hel has given me so much when it comes to this, really. She came into my life and she kicked me up the arse, right? I cannot explain to you how grateful I am for that. So many times when I felt distracted, I'm in the middle of something and I know I want to finish it, but I feel like I'm being pulled away from something more creative or more spiritual or something I'd rather do, something more fun. Hel is a being that says, hey, completion of a task that you committed to do or that you need to do for some reason, some task, some responsibility, is very spiritual and very creative and very fun. You might need to do something to make it so, you know, you might need to add stimulation to it in the form of music or incense or whatever it is, you know, mentality, but it is sacred and fun and awesome. It feels good to do that. She really encourages me to take whatever it is that I'm working on, that I know that I need to finish, or I said I would finish, or I want to finish, and make it artistically charged and make it mystically potent, if you will. And she also really encourages me to know that I can do what I set out to do, because sometimes I feel very overwhelmed by the commitment that's in front of me. I tell myself, you know what, there's too many moving parts, I can't deal with this, it's never going to get finished, it's too stressful. And she will come in and kind of very much guide me to remember that every single brick that you put into the wall creates the finished structure. Every single step that you take that gets you further towards the end is of value. So don't think about, you know, the fact that the structure is barely built and it's going to take you all of these different bricks to have it be completed. Just focus on the brick that you're putting into the wall right now. That brick is valuable. That brick is part of what will later become the finished task. So just focus on that and give that all of your love and attention. And then when it's time to lay the next brick down, you do that, right? So it's really just dividing it into bite-sized chunks, essentially. She's very good with that. I think that as far as goddesses go, Hel, for me anyway, has always been very, very good at like helping me with project management, time management, energy management, and just like the right mentality to be able to finish something. Without a doubt, especially with my second book, it would not be finished were it not for her influence in that way. She kind of comes in whenever I need to remember that it's one thing at a time, you know, stay the course, and the finish line will be delicious. I think that's how she built and maintained her entire kingdom. And so she's really imparted that to me. Lesson number 3 that this goddess has taught me time and time again, it's very much attached to the second lesson. So the second lesson was about focus, you know, productivity and moving towards the finish line. The third lesson is about what happens when you get there. When you get to your finish line, when you've completed the thing that was difficult to complete, but you stayed the course and you did that shit, own it. You know, give yourself credit for it. Take your flowers, enjoy your wins, celebrate your successes. Hel is very much about this. Hel, to me, is a sacred being that moves through her halls of her kingdom and wanders through her orchards and checks in on her dead with a sense of pride, with a feeling of like, yeah, I did that. I'm doing that, you know? Okay, the storm came in very strongly then. It's really that sense of like all of this is being maintained and is being kind of like is evolving and moving and happening because of me. I am the central spoke. I am doing this thing. And there is that sense that like, yeah, I'm going to give myself credit for that. I'm proud of this, you know. It gives me great pleasure to be able to say that all of these parts move in unison because I decided that that was going to be what happened and I made it so. And so she's very much imparted that to me, that sense of like, take your wins, own that, be proud of it, hold the things that you made in your hands, look at the time that you spent proactively and productively and say, wow, yeah, I could have made a different decision there, but I didn't. I went for using my potency, channeling my strength, you know, owning my vision and making it so. There have been several different situations in my life where Hel has come to me and said, your success is not to be downplayed. You know, your strength and the way that you decided to go ahead and use it despite the odds or despite your fear, it should be somewhere where you can see it, you know, like get it up on the wall, enjoy that, know that you did that. And that's powerful. Lesson number 4 is a really big one again. And this is to be in your body, be strong in your body. Don't be aside from your body. Don't live as though your body is in the next room. You know, this is such a significant thing. I think it is to do with her being a death goddess and being connected to both life and thriving in the flesh and also decay in the bones, right? There's something about it that's very immediate, very urgent, this idea that you only have your body for a set amount of time. And so live with your body, live in your body, live in accordance with your body. And this is really, really powerful for me. I'm going to tell a story now that I know I've told at least once on the channel, but I'm going to say it to you here, really quick form, okay? I was doing a devotional for Hel once in 2017. I had my custom made beads and I had my custom made oil and I had my black candles and I was doing a devotional. I can't remember if I was really feeling it or not, but I think something was probably missing because what happened was I was in the middle of this devotional to her and she came to me and she said to me very clearly, she planted this seed of inspiration right in my brain during the devotional. She said to me, I want you to sweat to honor me. And I thought to myself, I need to get a gym membership.
Girl, I want to make you sweat.
I have known for a long time that I need to make sure that my core stays strong because I have a spinal injury, and I know that that's really important, and I've been slacking on that. And I've also known for many, many moons that as somebody that has depression, I really need to give myself that endorphin kick of working out and exercising and, you know, really just being in my physicality. And I'm just not doing that. And I got a gym membership, and every single time since then that I have been to my gym, it is under the banner of her name. I do it as a form of devotion. I still do devotionals to Hel, but they're far less now. Hel imparted to me that day that she wanted me in the gym. She wanted me to be in my physicality. Now, I'm not saying that if you work with Hel, she's going to convince you to do something that is beyond your ability, beyond your limits, right? I think that it would work differently for everybody. But what I will say is that if you work with Hel, she's probably going to really challenge your laziness or resistance or avoidance around what you can do with your body. And that's what your body needs. And it's what your body is really yearning for. And it's that feeling that you are challenging your body and then enjoying the aftermath of having challenged it. That is one massive thing that she did for me. And she always reminds me when it comes to working out and exercising or movement, you know, just like challenging myself with physical movement, staying strong in my core, you know, giving myself those endorphin rushes that I need for my mental well-being. Hel always reminds me that I'm double hard as well, because I'm not always motivated to go to the gym. I don't always want to do my exercises and my stretches and all of that stuff. I don't, but Hel always reminds me that I don't need motivation to do those things. I need discipline. And I think if Hel is a goddess of anything, she's a goddess of discipline, right? With the kingdom that she's running and the responsibilities that she has, she is a discipline being. And she's imparted that to me. She has said to me, like, you don't need to be motivated to get your ass out there and go to the gym. Walk to the gym, even if it's sideways rain. You'll be proud of yourself for doing it, and the joy of it will come afterwards or during. It doesn't necessarily need to be there before. What you need before you go is the discipline to acknowledge the commitment you made and stick to it. Lesson number 5 that my goddess has taught me time and time again, and this one is really deep, guys, okay? Hel has reminded me in many ways that I am not my past. I am not my parents. I am not the circumstances into which I was born or the things that I've been through. Those things have shaped me, yes, but they don't have to define me, and they do not have to dictate how things go on with me in my story and how I build my future going forward. I get to make different decisions. I get to be sovereign to myself. I don't just have to be the result of the things that have happened or the you know, the kind of placement that I had on this earth, in this history, in this body, with this family line or whatever. I get to be creative and I get to hold my own vision. You know, Hel rules the kingdom of the dead because Odin needed to give her a job. You know, Odin was very concerned about Loki's children. They could be meddlesome. They could pose a risk. They could pose a threat. You're not just going to let Loki's offspring wander around the Yggdrasil, right? That could be a disaster. So with Hel's brothers, they were bound in their own ways, and Hel was given the kingdom of the dead. I like to think that Odin saw her potential and took a shine to her, and she went down to the kingdom of the dead at the roots of the Yggdrasil, and she surpassed herself, and she outshone her reputation, and she outwitted her apparent fate as a child of Loki. And when I look at that, I hold a mirror up to myself, and I think, I don't have to be, you know, the way that my parents have been in certain ways that I don't want to be. I don't have to let the family estrangement mean that I'm cruel and bitter going forward. I don't have to let my past failures or my past instability make me feel that I can't achieve things now or I can't be stronger now. I do not have to let the things that have happened to me define what happens next. Hel taught me to make the best of myself, you know. When she came into my life, I was still very much in that phase where I was resenting people who grew up with some of the things that I didn't have, like more family stability, a more functional family, more mental health stability, you know, people that had never experienced breakdowns and didn't have mental health issues, more money, that kind of stuff. And Hel came in at a time where I still was telling myself, if only I'd had things that way, I could have done this. If only that had been provided for me, I could have been this type of person. And she was very much like, no, okay, everything that has been what has happened, and you get to decide what happens now. How might things be different to the way you imagined they had to be just because these things befell you or these things were unfortunate for you? So that was a really, really big deal for me. And I got that specifically from her story. Lesson number 6, Hel reminds me that conscious solitude is potent, you know, that I really need to come back to it time after time, that I get so much from it. And I always knew since I was a little girl that I like being alone. There's something really powerful for me about being alone. I like being in company too, but I think it's the contrast between solitude and company that really sort of makes a meal of it. And I recenter alone. I power up alone. I like to be alone, but I forget that, you know, I forget that, especially when I'm in love, especially when I'm having a good time, especially when there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things in the schedule and I'm interacting with people a lot. I forget that I need that. And it's got to be conscious solitude. So Hel is very much about keeping me away from going into a scroll hole. Okay. I know it sounds really like weird and basic, like why would a goddess pry the phone out of your hands? But believe me, okay, if you have a problem with phone addiction, ask your beings and goddesses and guides and such to help you. Ask your ancestors and your deities and your dead rock icons that you work with to prise the phone out of your hands, all right? So that definitely happens, right? It's got to be conscious solitude. It's got to be solitude of high quality, solitude of high caliber. And I have made a couple of videos about solitude and how best to use it. So I will leave those videos as well down below for you. But Hel really reminds me of that. The last time I channeled Hel and I requested, you know, information about what needs to be happening and what's not happening and why is that a problem, she really imparted a lot to me about solitude. She said to me, you know, you need to get away. You need to be with yourself. You need to come back to that sort of regathering process. And you're not going to get that doing these things you've been doing. You've got to be alone. And whenever I have some kind of like weird relationship with solitude for whatever reason, she clarifies for me that it has great healing potential and that I do need it to be able to remember who I am and what the next right action needs to be. Lesson number 7 is a harsh one and a hard one, but it's one that Hel is very, very good at connecting me with. And the way that she says it to me is very brutal and violent. So that's how I'm going to say it to you. Cut the gangrenous limb. In other words, cessation of a connection with someone that is behaving in a toxic manner and treating you in a toxic way can be considered to be the fight for the rest of your life, right? Like whatever is going right in your life, whatever is thriving, whatever beautiful things you have could be poisoned. They could be taken into a state of sepsis by this one toxic thing that you have going on that you really do not want to let go of, but you need to remove yourself from, okay? And the way that she said it to me at a very particular time in the past when I was going through a toxic relationship, which, you know, I've made a video about that. You can watch it if you'd like to. The way that she imparted this to me was to say, you need to cut the gangrenous limb. You have a limb, okay, that is green, and it is going to poison the rest of the body. So you must do the necessary thing, even though it's not what you want to do, and remove it from the rest of the body to give the rest of the body the chance to live. It's very brutal and it's very difficult to do, but it's also something that Hel, I think, is kind of like really elite and really expert in. This idea that, you know what, sometimes something needs to be done to prevent the further spread of the toxicity to other areas of life. You have to defend the rest of your life, your other relationships, your mental well-being, your spiritual well-being by cutting off a limb. And it feels like that, you know? It felt like that with my toxic relationship. I felt like, but this is my limb. This is a part of me. This is so important. Surely I can nurse it back to health. Surely I can do something to dress the wounds and disinfect the thing. And Hel is one of those sacred, righteous beings that comes in and says, honey, it's green and rotting. My love, you really, really need to amputate. I'm sorry if this is like a really difficult analogy for some people, but that's literally how she said it to me. Cut the gangrenous limb. You know, you don't have time for this. You don't have the energy for this. Let it go. Move on. Sometimes when you've just put up with so much and you've dealt with somebody's behaviors being just so trying and so toxic time after time, and they've been giving you all of these words, but the actions don't match up. a being that you have a close relationship with may come into your life and say, you need to sever the limb to save the rest of the body. That's what needs to happen here. There is no way to nurse this part of the whole back to health. It is only going to poison everything else. You have to be strong. You know, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt like hell with one L. You see what I did there? It's going to hurt like hell, but it's got to be done, you know? And I try to always trust her with that. I know that I can do it because I did it before I even encountered her. You know, I have instigated estrangement from a person that was just behaving abominably and abusively and neglectfully before Hel came into my life. But it's like she causes me to remember that I'm capable of doing that and to take the deep breath and do the scary thing and just do it when it needs to be done. It's a boundary setting technique, but it's really based on this idea that she's trying to explain to me that, like, if you don't set this boundary, which I know is going to be painful for you to set, you have got no idea what kind of pain is coming down the line. It will make this look like nothing. It will make this severing look like nothing. What is coming for you in the future, if you do not get rid of this now, is really, you don't want it. It's not pleasant, right? Do it now. Get rid. Lesson number 8, face tough things with joy. I think Hel does sometimes a very tedious job and sometimes a very difficult job with precision to detail and with great care, you know, and with great consciousness. And so really she's always kind of teaching me that if something is tedious or boring, or if I'm in avoidance to doing it, or if it feels like it's going to be really difficult, or I'm in the middle of it and it is really difficult, to try and see that there is something really spiritually seductive about that I'm learning something from it, that I could be growing as a result of it, that I could be strengthening as the result of giving my attention to it, rather than to resent it, rather than to run away from it, to move towards it and to say, okay, this thing is tough, this thing is harsh, this thing is boring, this thing does not excite me, it doesn't get my inner child going. But there might be something about that that's really of value, you know, and it's made me into a more patient person and a person who accepts the realities of life far better than I used to. There is a very sort of sacred discipline to doing something that I don't want to do, but that needs to be done to a high standard, and being with myself through that and witnessing myself doing it and being proud of myself and impressed with myself while doing it, and knowing that it could be giving me something of great value that I haven't even been able to witness yet, but it's coming down the line, you know. So it's really about not running away from things that are difficult, or not putting it off, procrastinating on it, but rather saying, I'm glad this is going to be challenging. Let's see what there is in that for me. Let's see what I can get out of that. Lesson number 9, keep your head high, keep your boundaries strong, and keep your sword sharp.
Take big swings and keep away from any support beams.
This is the aspect of Hel that is that sort of warrior that comes up at the time of Ragnarok. This is the aspect of Hel that is poised to fight and poised to stand her ground. And this is the toughness of her that comes through to me with this lesson. I have really taken from her more of that innate ability that I have to speak up when the situation calls for it, to stand by my words and to refuse to weaken my boundaries, especially for people who are really trying to take my energy and take my time and demand sort of justifications or explanations from me that I don't want to give, you know. One thing that's coming up for me strongly as I'm speaking about this is my activism. Some aspects of my activism have been very contentious, and that is really about, like, head up. In other words, you know, understand that what you're doing for righteous reasons, and you feel that it is correct, and you feel it in your gut and your bones and your water. Hold your boundaries, and that means really don't give away your energy and your potency to people who are not even wanting to see your point of view. Like, it really would be wasteful to give your energy to those people. They're just going to keep sending you round in circles. And sharpen your sword, okay? Doesn't mean you have to wield it, but sharpen it. Put a motherfucker in their place when that needs to happen, you know? All of these things are very Hel coded. And if you are a dedicant of Hel, then you're probably nodding vigorously right now. She reminds me that there may be a moment where I need to stand my ground and fight my case. There may be a moment where I really need to, like, hold my mud and kind of like you know, resist weakening my boundary by giving power that I do not want to give out, and that I don't think there's a point to it, you know. She really just sharpened me as a warrior for what is right and for what I feel is honourable. The 10th and final lesson that I want to talk about in this video, my darlings, is that death is sacred. That is something that Hel, obviously, teaches me. It might seem really very on the nose and very obvious, but there is something, you know, so important about that wisdom. In the video that I made where I explained to you about the death of my brother, I talked about the myth of Boulder, and I talked about how my brother's death reminded me of that, you know, that Hel keeps what she has, that everything in the 9 worlds was never going to cry for Boulder. You know, when I think of that myth, and I'm sorry, I don't have time to explain the myth right now, but you can read it if you don't know it. When I think about the myth of the death of Boulder, what I see is that Hel was very much aware that not everything in the 9 worlds would cry for him, and that she would not give him back, because she understands and has that deep wisdom that death is not something that can be meted out in terms of what is just and what is fair and what is okay by everybody. Death is not okay by us, you know, but death does give life its colour. It does give love its urgency. It is something that makes us love harder and live harder and value every moment with each other that we have, because we do not know when death is coming. And so I have always felt for a long time, even long before I started working devotionally with Hel, that death gives life its meaning. And really, during my bereavement, which I'm still very, very much in the absolute pit of right now, it has been very difficult for me to link up with Hel again. And I do talk about that in my latest video about her that I made in January 2024. But it's also been really sacred because the myth of Boulder is so much to do with the fact that, like, yes, death is agony, and yes, death is harsh, and yes, we do feel robbed, but also without death, without mortality, what would we experience when we make art, or when we make love, or when we embrace each other, or when we sit up talking together, when we're in community with each other? What would it be like? You know, is it only death that brings the sugar to the proceedings? I believe it is. I really do. I believe that the urgency of love and the passion of connection and the meaning in friendship and community is provided largely by death, you know, because we don't know when it's going to end, and we want to really, really do something with it while it's here, this life. And I think that that is something that an underworld goddess, a death goddess, can teach you so potently. For me, Hel is one of the influences in my life that has put me in touch with my gratitude for every waking moment that I knew my brother in the time he was on the earth. And that is a very hard thing to come to when you feel you have been so unjustly robbed of somebody so legendary. It is a very, very hard thing to bring to consciousness. But I believe that she is part of the reason that I have managed to do that at times. And that gratitude is so matchless and so important to me. Darlings, I have loved talking to you about these 10 very vital lessons that Hel has given to me. Please let me know if anything resonated with you, whether you work with Hel or whether you work with other beings, and what lessons have your beings taught you? I would love to know. My book, Witched Darkness, is now officially for sale, so you can grab a physical copy, or you can go over to Audible and grab the audiobook, which is narrated by me, so you can hear me read my own book. Thank you so much to everyone who's already posted a photo of the book. Let me know that you're reading it, that you're loving it. Thank you so much. Please keep the photos coming. I'm loving them. Please use the hashtag #WitchInDarkness. Please make your reviews on YouTube, on TikTok, on Amazon, on Goodreads, etc., on Instagram. Let me know what you thought, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I would love to know. And if you would like to be a part of the shadow work masterclass that I have going on this month, there are still some spaces left for the Unearth Shadow Work Masterclass. So I'll leave the link down below. Get yourself over there. We're going to do some journaling and some contemplations and some conversation together around the shadow stuff. Okay, so it's very seasonally on point, and I will look forward to seeing you there. If you are not subscribed, please get subscribed. There are a number of you that are not, that keep watching my videos and then just like fleeing without subscribing, don't do that. Make sure you hit subscribe and make sure you hit like if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so, so much for your attention and going through these incredible lessons from my matron goddess with me. Hel be with you. Much love and blessed be.